Let's talk about what is the problem with society today and the way we see it. The problem with society today is a type of Hegelian dialectic logic. And what that means is that we are setting ourselves up to where our thinking is encapsulated into a box, and it's creating polarization. It's either you're good or you're bad, you're left or you're right. You're a Democrat or Republican, or you're nothing. And again, this is defined by the Hegelian dialectic. And let me just play a little bit of this for you, so that you can get a quick understanding of what this is all about. I'm not going to play the entire video, but just give you just a little teaser on it, and you can research this on YouTube.
The Hegelian dialectic, which is the art or practice of arriving at the truth by the exchange of logical arguments. So it is, in theory, a means of extracting the truth. Hegelianism believes that the human mind can't understand anything unless it can be split into two polar opposites, fat, skinny. And the discussion in between would be the resolution. And that is how Hegelianism arrives at the truth.
Now, the problem with Hegelianism is that it takes a thesis and antithesis, and the synthesis of that is somewhere it's supposed to be the truth, which is absolutely wrong, because what you're doing is, again, you're engaging in polar thinking, polarization. It's either these two things that you have to consider, or there's nothing, and that is not how your thought process should be working. In fact, one of the things I think is very good, and it's really going to probably change a lot of the ways that we think right now, is the Tetralama, because what it does is it takes two opposing ideas, and it puts them together, and you hold that thought process, and from that thought process, you start to expand your awareness. So in other words, what the ancient Kemetic people understood is that you can have two contradictory things, and hold those contradictions in place, and use that as a way to further your thought process. In today's society, we can't handle contradictories. It doesn't make sense to us, and that's the way we've been set up to believe with this Hegelian dialectic, or with the polarization in our thinking. And this is the way racism is spawned, because racism tells us that there is a good and there is a bad. And we know from studying the great Chinese oracle, the I Ching, that there is no evil, that everything really serves to further and help your development. But when you are brought up in a society that there is no holistic thinking, ma'at thinking, which means that everything has a place and a form and a function, and that there's an interdependence between everything. When you're not brought up thinking in that way, and you're only brought up thinking, hey, you know what, I am black, so there's a white, and one is diametrically opposed to the other, then that creates a lot of problems in the world, where you can't see resolution to conflicts. And that's exactly how we're being set up with the whole ISIS thing, is to see like, oh, the United States is the good guys, terrorists is the bad guys, when you can't really understand that if there is a terrorist group, ISIS, it exists for a reason, and that is because the United States has engaged in covert operations where they have destabilized the economy of foreign nations, gone in and taken over the sovereign nations from the elected leaders, and put in place puppet leaders that do according to what the United States wants, which is to bankrupt the country and put them into debt to the World Bank, and it just goes on. So you have to understand that our thinking as a people has to transcend this whole idea of you either have to have a positive and a negative. You can't have these two living in coexistence. In other words, one of the things that I teach and I talk to people about, because they say, when you speak, you sound like you're talking in contradictions. And I say, no, I don't, because you have to understand it's not this or that, but it's this and that. The same way we know, subapartic particles, can take on the form of both a wave and a particle. And people are like, oh, well, which one is it? It's both, So let's get that understanding. But really the heart of all of this is coming from this whole xenophobic approach. The idea is being afraid of something that's other than us. And this has been cultured and nurtured throughout history, and I want to bring to light just a couple of films from the 1950s that really showcase this polarized thinking and this fear of anything that's alien to the dominant culture. This is a really great film. It's a science fiction film called Them, and immediately you see by the title that it already is setting itself up to have this opposition in thinking. And this is about these really weird giant ants or insects.
Violence. Nature, mad, rampant, wrought its most awesome creation. But born in that swirling inferno of radioactive dust, were things so horrible, so terrifying, so hideous. There is no word to describe them. We may be witnessing.
Now, some have said that, well, these films were based on the atomic bomb testings back then. But no, it's all based upon the fear of anybody outside of the dominant culture. And let's take this a step further to, almost during the same time period of invasion of the body snatchers. Again, we see the same xenophobic fear of anything that's different and outside of the norm.
The unimaginable becomes real. The impossible becomes true. Stop it! Stop it! Listen to me! Listen! Listen to me! You're not human! Can't you see? Everyone! They're here already! You're next!
Now, you can see there about just the passion, how terrorized he is, and he's warning people that they're coming, So again, it's just this fear. And this is what the Illuminati plays off of, and this is what they seed into the culture itself, is this fear of being taken over. Now, this has also been nurtured through other things, such as, for example, the fear of meteors coming and wiping out the human population on the planet, the fear of an alien invasion. All these fears have to crop up, and what they do is they justify the programs, or even the black ops programs that the United States is engaging in. So they have to constantly engage in these false flag operations, this whole climate of fear, and even taking a step further, when I talk about the Illuminati working through symbolisms, you can look at how the witch hunts, when they were burning women at the stake for being witches, this was again the occult practice of tuning into the right brain. And the Illuminati doesn't want you to do that, because when you start doing that, you start breeding an intelligent race of people or population of people who are geniuses, because the right brain can give you so much wealth of information and knowledge and wisdom. And that is something that cannot be allowed. An educated, enlightened population spells death to the Illuminati. The last thing I want to turn to is the actual the Kemetic tree of life, which I think is brilliant. You'll see right here. This diagram goes over the multifaceted ways of thinking. Not just logical, emotional, but it really gets into the complexity of how the thought process should work and arrive at a conclusion, not just from the Hegelian dialectic, where you're just taking the thesis and antithesis and coming through a synthesis. This is talking more about taking an overall holistic approach to a thought process, looking at all the factors and then coming up with an intelligent solution or resolution to the problem. So right now, we are in this hysterical state of fear caused by these false flag operations that the Illuminati is putting in place, so that they can justify all the damage and control that they're doing now to the population. So I want to leave you with this. Think about what is going on, and don't fall victim to this mindset of these terrorists are coming to get us, and that we have to be afraid, because they want us in fear. The Illuminati and the evil behind them is like a parasite. It feeds off the fear. So this has been Kasak Ma Keparu for Project Illuminated, and that's all for now.